click a ton.
I'll try not to click.
Welcome back to an episode that I think is going to be educational. I think it's going to be enlightening, and I think it's going to be fun. These are guys who I've known at a distance for quite some time. And this is the Dallas Card Investors. And we have Jason from their team here today. And I'm really excited to get to know a little bit of kind of how the sausage is made, a little bit of behind the scenes of what this business is all about.
Sure.
Because I think we've all heard of Dallas Card Investors in the last year and a half. It's a very respected brand in the hobby.
Thank you.
But I think a lot of people are out here asking, what do they do and how can they utilize what you guys do?
And
right?
Matthew McConaughey was in a movie about them, right?
That's right. Not the same Dallas Card. I think that's a Dallas Buyers Club.
Oh,
Close.
I just assume Dallas. It's all the same stuff. No,
yeah, we'll hire McConaughey anytime he wants to come by the office.
I think he can play you.
He's
welcome. I think it's a good mix. I think you play you, put the backward hat on. That's it, man. Perfect.
Well,
Sorry, Andrew.
Thank y'all.
You can't make it a minute.
We appreciate it, and like you said, Andrew, just being friendly with you guys at arm's length the past 18 months. Really excited to get on the podcast and kind of share what we're all about. So again, Dallas Card Investors, we are a premier grading company in the hobby space. That's something that we take pride on, is going to be our grades that are extremely consistent to the condition of the card, not necessarily what that card brings in the market. Value kind of be damned. We're going to grade your card no matter the condition. We're going to assign it a fair grade based on its condition. Kind of to dive into the history of DCI a little bit. We started off as a group submission program. I think a lot of people are probably familiar with Dallas Card Investors as a group submission program. We were one of the largest PSA dealer accounts. We have done over 50,000 submissions to PSA and Beckett respectively. All that coming in the last 2 years. A service that we like to provide on the front side of that on our group submission program was something that is just known as raw card review. I think people are familiar with the service that we offer now and almost treat it as a way to see where their card stands condition-wise before sending it off to a true one of the main two grading companies, PSA, Beckett. But
Jason, if I could just stop you there, because that's a huge moment. Like when I first came into the hobby,
absolutely,
I had no clue what I was doing.
Sure.
And through good fortune, I met one person. I want to give him a shout out, Rick Shin, Gem City Sports Card, who I would send all of my raw cards to him.
Yep.
He would review them $2-3, which I thought was just a steal.
Right.
He would review them and he would prep them, right? New penny sleeve, new card saver. That's super important, right? Just how you present the cards.
Absolutely.
And he also saved me so much money from subbing a card that, on the surface looked like a 9, but it would have ended up being a 5 because there really are true professionals.
Absolutely.
So I want to make that point really clearly here. You guys probably got, 50,000 cards. You had so much data to see, our 9s are truly PSA 9s,
That's correct. And I probably got a little confused there. I was going to say the group submission program really allowed us to track our accuracy with these grading companies, whether it be 9 and 10s from PSA, 9, 5, 10 from BGS. The historical data, just running that many subs, kind of gave us the ability to line up and say, hey, the cards that we're reviewing and that we say are 9s and 10s, or we're going to send to PSA. We could then, when that card came back, identify, hey, we reviewed this as a 9 or a 10. It came back as a 9 or a 10. And we kind of then built our accuracy rate with the two companies around that number. It was somewhere around 90 to 95% based on the specific company, a little bit higher for Beckett rather than PSA. We find that they're a little more consistent with the condition and grading on their cards. But somewhere in above the 90% range was our accuracy rate for those raw review cards that we ended up submitting. And this is kind of how we developed our grading scale for our Dallas Card Investors grades.
Cage, you remember you asked me this maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? You asked me a question. Usually I'm the one asking most of the questions to you. But you asked me this question. you said, where do you think group submitters are going to be in 5 to 7 years? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I think I don't want to say that this is where all group submitter is, but I think you guys are the benchmark for what a group submitter can become, right? Because you have all of this data, you have this huge customer base,
sure,
and there is tremendous opportunity. So I'm curious, how did you guys go, and when did you guys go from being a group submitter to BGS and PSA to seeing a need and opportunity in the market and capturing it? When did this shift happen?
I would say that it happened this year around March, which is probably, familiar timeline for a lot of people in the hobby, is when PSA kind of increased their price and shut down lower levels, anything below Super Express, I believe it was at the time. What that really allowed
in that order, by the way, guys, just so people never forget.
Yeah, right. I think that really allowed for a need in the hobby for cards to be reviewed that were not necessarily worth sending in for Super Express, if that makes sense. Still plenty of rookie cards out there. I know baseball specifically, I'm a big baseball guy. Whenever those new rookies come out, you're always wanting to collect the rookies. You want to get them in a PSA 10. Those cards, as they come out, generally are $5 to $10 cards. There's no reason to pay $300 to get them graded. So Dallas Card Investors, what we were excited to be able to offer was a turnaround time of the same day turnaround, whether it's at show or in our office. For $10, you can see where your card stands, no matter the value of the card. You can bring us a $5 card, $1 million card, and we're going to grade it. It's going to cost you $10. Again, if that's where you want to leave it as the final product and in a graded Dallas Card Investors holder, so be it. We've seen a lot of our customers turn around and sell their cards with DCI grades on them for a higher price than the raw. A lot of times those customers would then say, okay, hey, maybe I've got a card here that's worth sending off for $300. Now I feel comfortable spending the $300 based on the $10 review up front, to kind of gauge where I'm at condition wise. So I'd say about March of 2020 was the start of that for us.
I'm curious. I have a million questions. Cage, feel free to jump in here because you are a PSA snob. Cage doesn't grade cards anywhere else.
It's not true. It's not 100% true. But I'm a snob. So I guess my question really is probably, again, I try to do this if I'm listening, right? It's the first time I've ever heard of DCI, and I'm out there listening, and I'm saying to myself, there's like 19 grading companies now. Totally. Literally, I think there might be more because this week there might have been 3 more that popped up in someone else's backyard. Right. How do you sustain any type of actual demand for the product that you have? One, while a new competitor pops up literally every week, and 2, when you know that in a matter of time, the big 800-pound gorilla will reopen and clearly take away some of the demand. I mean, if all the movie theaters closed, it's easier for you to show some movies on your backyard, screen and charge people $1 to come in because that's the only place they can see a movie. But when the big chains open back up and they got the popcorn and they got all the bells and whistles over there and they're showing all the big budget, movies, how does the backyard cinema stay open? I guess that's where I would be.
No, and I think it's an appropriate question to ask. I think in the last 18 months, we've, like you said, have seen 15 to 20 grading companies pop up seemingly out of nowhere. I think what separates DCI, Dallas Card Investors, from those, say, new grading companies is that we did not start off as a grading company. I think our track record as an accurate group submitter over time really helped establish credibility with our grading scale, and the grades that we are, the product that we're delivering for the price point, if that makes sense. We've had, a lot of return customers is going to be another big thing for us. People who do give us a chance for $10 versus the existing well-established grading companies. They see that the value is there, that either, hey, these guys said my card's going to get a 7 and it's not worth sending off for the $300 or the $150. to one of these other grading companies, and kind of saving you that money that way up front to not have to go and pay the extra couple $100. But we've also seen it as a way of, hey, I'm comfortable with Dallas Card Investors 10 being a 10 across, from any of these other companies if I were to send it to them. And the market, obviously on the secondary market is catching up to that as well, as we get more of our grades and things out there. And that, I think, just takes time to kind of build that reputation. But I think our end goal would not be to completely replace either Beckett or PSA, anything like that. I think there's just, room for more competition in the space, and probably, whether it be another option, somebody, people's preference, things like that. I just think that as the hobby continues to grow, there will just be more options and opportunities. Like that.
So we started off, I mean, obviously that's the top line answer, right? So my question for you is, what's different? What's DCI bring that the other 18 companies that are doing this are not bringing? What's different? Obviously, top line, it's $10. So that right off the bat is that's there's your foot in the door, get people in. It's not thousands of dollars, it's $10 per card.
That's exactly right. I would say another thing that's going to separate us is going to be the holder. If you're familiar with Beckett Raw reviews, it's going to be in a card saver one with a tamper-proof label over the top, and that's kind of how that's the product model that we use. It's not going to come in a hard. We are launching Slabs, hopefully by the middle of 2022. We're going to have that feature, but as of right now, we just have our $10 graded card option. It's going to come in a card saver with our tamper-proof label. That kind of gives people the safe, peace of mind that if you get a card graded from us, people aren't going to switch it out and go sell it like that with the void stickers and all that. There are tamper-proof measures that we take just to keep the card safe and, tamper-free. Another thing that we're going to add in our process is on the transparency side of things. You will be able to, our slab, when it does come out in hopefully the middle of the year, we'll have a QR code to where you will see markings that our graders are going to go through on the screen and be able to kind of pinpoint the corner and say, hey, this is a soft corner. This is an edge damaged edge. This has got a scratch on the surface, and actually be able to input that information onto a photo or video review of the card itself. That QR code you'll be able to scan and pull up a little 10-second video and to see what our graders are actually seeing as they review the card, if that makes sense. So you'll get your card back from us in theory. It says, hey, I've got a DCI 9. You do the QR code on the back of the slab. Here's why you got a DCI 9. The video is going to explain, hey, here's the soft corner. Here's what we saw on the surface. Here's this. It's not just, hey, you got a 9. You got a 9.
Cage, I think it's similar to what we're seeing with the marketplaces, right? We've been talking about this for the last week. We're seeing a kind of decentralization of all of these places to buy and sell cards. I think the same thing with grading companies. And you're right, there are 18, but the competition isn't necessarily, okay, it's 5 card companies and it's done. It's the cream will rise to the crop. The cream will rise to the top, right?
Right.
And I think what DCI has going for them, very few other grading companies that have popped up in the last year have done, right? They've grown organically from just, reviewing people's submissions, getting a ton of data, having the proof is in the pudding. They had this customer base, the 1,000 true fans, like we always talk about.
Sure.
And then just scaling up slowly versus many other grading companies that have popped up in the last year. They came out of nowhere, right? They have no track record. They have no reputation. They have no customer base. I think that little differentiator might seem so subtle, but it's a big deal. They've been doing this for 2 years. And then the last part is, and you guys are a little stealthy. I think the label actually is a good representation of you guys. Sure. Very stealthy. You guys move in silence. You're not big like hurrah, hurrah. You just execute, right? And a lot of people don't realize the founders of the company are very successful, very intelligent businessmen.
That's correct.
Who, who know the card world very well, who've been in the card world very well, and have also run and scaled businesses.
Correct. Yes, sir. And, just to touch on their background a little bit, Bradley's our founder. Bradley Crenshaw's his name, extremely successful businessman. He was a former card shop owner as well. So, decades of hobby background and experience in his corner as well. It's something that I think you touched on a little bit. I think maybe people associate us still as a group submitter, and it's something that as we were building our reputation for group submissions, as we pivoted, kind of our business strategy and the way that we were going to run with the business, I think it's just kind of taken a little bit of catch up for the general public to understand kind of the direction that we're moving versus, where we started versus the direction that we're headed in now, with grades and slabs and just becoming one of those premier grading companies in the space. As opposed to the Dallas Card Investors guys who are buying and selling or, running group submissions, things like that, just doing the review. I think we've had a little bit of a transition, I guess, transitory period to where now we are, trying to, push this grading as hard as we can, drive in the submissions, as much as possible, and really just, push that DCI grading name out there just to be on par with PSA and BGS. And that's our ultimate goal, is just, to be another big player in that space. And I think it's become kind of a new thing for people to hear us approach it that way, because like we said, we, at first started off with so many kind of different ventures and group submissions, buying and selling of cards, stuff like that. But now we are just, we're all in on grading, and that's the direction we're taking this thing, and we're going to hit it hard and run full speed at it.
And like you said, it's tiered grading too. No one else does that. And what I mean by tiered is, I remember when I first went to a show, it was Westchester in 2020.
Sure.
Yeah, January 2020. The line for RCR cage was out the door. And I don't remember, it was $10, $15. I don't remember what it was, but it was cool because here you are, you could get your card. It reviewed it to the point where it gave a data point to the collector, myself, to know, do I send this to PSA? Do I send this to BGS? Do I just sell it raw, right? Like in the RCR. And it provided a lot of information for me for a small amount of upfront cost and not a lot of time.
So would you say right now, Jason, that at least for what we're doing, it's like pre-grading, especially with PSA close, like people are using it as it's $10 to make sure I'm not wasting 150 or 300?
That's correct. Yeah. A lot of times, and so we offer it as just from DCI, we push it out as our own grades, right? So that the DCI grade that you receive back from us is our final product. We've seen people with that product, sell at a multiplier based on the value of the raw card. Mm-hmm. But we also have seen a lot of people who will pay that $10 on a card that they're unsure of the condition. And like you said, if we maybe say, hey, this has got a big surface scratch, well, then they now know they can go turn around and sell it raw instead of put more money into it to try to maximize their return.
And time, right?
And time
is a huge thing, man. People don't realize this. Like, think about all the cards sitting at PSA. We think about the grading cost, but we don't think about the risk associated with holding an athlete who's playing every single day who could get injured.
Michael Porter Jr.
Who? Otto Porter Jr. went off for the Warriors.
Yeah, Otto Porter Jr.
He's good, man.
So just to touch on the turnaround time a little bit, we do set up at shows a lot of times. Something that we've seen our customers do is they'll bring us a stack of 50 to 100 cards, and we'll have them reviewed, graded, and back in their hands by the same day at that show. We've seen people turn around and sell those cards at that same show. You know what I mean? They'll turn around, sell them that same day. Oftentimes we'll have people walk around and pick out stuff through dollar boxes, bring it to us and say, hey, I bought this for $1. I'm going to get it reviewed for 10 and a PSA 10 is $150. So, but they weren't confident in the condition. They paid the $10 to kind of get it checked out at the show right in front of them. They'll have it back in their hand in about 10 minutes. They can make that decision then. Hey, maybe I just go get it raw, sell it raw, get rid of it. Or, hey, it's in good enough condition that I think I could, spend $150 to profit on this card. And like you said, it's about providing information in real time to the collectors. And it's something that lets you know where you stand just right away. And allows you to make, to make that decision, whether or not you want to use another company afterward. Great. But, our product is we just want to provide you with a very accurate condition, detailed, outline of the conditioning of your card, basically with that grade.
With a much faster turnaround, I'm sure, because of it.
Much faster turnaround.
Real quick, guys. So what we did, and honestly, generosity from the Dallas Card guys and Jason here. So I'll put this up on the screen. If you guys are listening on audio, Spotify or Apple, it's The Card Investors. So go give them a follow on Twitter. We're doing a giveaway. So we're going to be picking 2 people. We're going to be giving away 5 submissions, free, completely covered by this gentleman here and his team. We really, really appreciate it. All you guys have to do is follow them on Twitter, Card Investors, and follow us on Twitter. Most of you guys are, but Luca, Tiger, LeBron on Twitter. That's simple. If you're watching on YouTube, it's right here on the screen. We're going to be picking someone in the next, we'll say by Friday.
Yeah.
We'll pick someone. We'll pick 2 people, 5 submissions each. They'll send their cards completely covered. And you guys will let us know, what's the experience like? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? I think you're going to be overwhelmingly pleased because it gives you a tremendous amount of information for a low cost and a quick turnaround. And that's what we want, in my opinion, as sports card investors.
And guys, while you're out there, if you happen to be one of our our fun fans who listens to our episodes immediately upon dropping, this will be up there, probably 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you're listening to this now, and we're about a half hour into it, so it's 8:30, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Today, the day this episode drops, there is a cool example of DCI's cards on eBay ending tonight. It looks like it ends at approximately 11:30, 11:31, maybe even 12:31. So into Tuesday Eastern time. So 12:31. Can't do math. It is an Upper Deck LeBron James Rookie Threads quad patch card in DCI 8 grade.
Nice.
And I bring this up, one, because you take a look at the, how they hold it. It does look a lot like the, RCR that Beckett does, but,
Sure.
Obviously a cooler label. It's got, with black and gold, it's got the 8 in gold. And this is currently, it's got 1 bid. I mean, look, guys, remember, it's just 1 data point, right? So I'm not saying this is any kind of slab stocks or
Right.
card ladder analysis being done here. Do your own research and all the financial advice baloney, blah, blah, blah. But this card, even though it says Rookie Threads, that's the name of it. I'm pretty sure this card's from 08, 09, not a 2003 card. Rookie Threads was the name of the brand. But if you look right now, this has got a bid on it. It's up to $400. There's an SGC 9 available by it now for less. 3 and change. So somebody's got this one here with the DCI 8, and it's bid up more than an SGC 9 that's currently sitting on eBay. I mean, again, 1 data point.
Sure. But I appreciate you. I appreciate you pointing that out. It's something I'd like to just mention. If you're interested, we have a lot of DCI graded card listings, not by us. They're not our own cards that we're putting up there, but our customers have put out onto the secondary marketplaces such as eBay. There are comps out there. A lot. Obviously, if the card is more common, there's probably a DCI comp out there for it. We're really proud of the multipliers that the grades are bringing on the secondary market. That's something that is just a credit to the accuracy of the grades that we've been giving out.
This card's not yours. It's an eBay seller with some good feedback, and
Right.
they're selling the car. I'm trying to see where they're located out of.
Right.
It's not the easiest thing to show, like if they're in Dallas. But I mean, it's just one that caught my eye because they're Mission, Texas, so close enough.
Sure.
But it's just a cool example, guys. I'm not saying bid on it. It's not even about the value of the card itself. It's a cool looking card with a cool, multicolor patch LeBron. And if you want to take a look at what the slab itself, the packaging of the card looks like after it's sealed, it's pretty cool. It's very clean. Black, white, gold.
Thank you.
Pretty clean.
My favorite colors. Not to get ahead of ourselves. When do you guys want to have the slabs rolled out by?
So that's a great question. I would like to put a tentative date out there of July 1st, 2021 or of this year, 2022. So hopefully in the next 6 to 8 months that we're going to be, slabbing here in office, and that's what we'll be, rolling out with full time once we start that.
Let's add some value. So when we talked to KK maybe like a year ago, Cage, remember he said something surprising. 96% of the Soto Topps Chrome were getting PSA 10s. Remember? He had that data?
Yeah, like 93 or something. Yeah, about a high amount. Really high. Yep.
You guys are fortunate because you're on the ground floor, right? You get to see what is trending before it's trending.
I would say.
What are you seeing?
So I was going to say I'm in charge of the grading here. Every card that comes in, I basically get eyes on at some point. That is probably the best part of my job. First of all, I get to see some amazing cards, museum pieces that few people in the world are lucky enough to see, rather than hold in their hands, things like that.
You might not even know it exists, right? Like how many cards do we know? Like
correct, yeah. There are some cards that you couldn't even put a price on, right? If you wanted to, they just don't. They don't work like that. So that from a historical standpoint, that's really cool. Getting to see all the pre-war cards, things like that, the super rare stuff. I really enjoy. From I'm just a hobbyist first and foremost, and so I've been able to kind of use that knowledge, like you said, the trends and seeing what people are sending into grade, how they're grading out, how the sets are straight from the factory, basically, seeing if there's any set to stay away from based on condition, things like that. I kind of get all that inside information just being in the grading room, which is awesome. But yeah, like you said, lots of 10s on those Sotos. I know the 2020 Topps Chrome is extremely clean, like the mosaic color, from 2019 versus the base, and tips and tricks like that are something.
What about what's coming in? What do you see a lot of coming for review? You see a lot of, is it mostly basketball? Is it Pokemon? You see Star Wars cards? Are people sending in a lot of like instant cards? What do you see?
We do a lot of everything. We don't just do sports cards. We do Pokemon, Magic the Gathering. We do Yu-Gi-Oh, MetaZoo, all the new stuff. I would say obviously the big majority of the cards are rookie cards in some capacity, whether it's first Bowman or a true rookie card, Prizm rookies, base, stuff like that. We don't get a whole lot of just vet base, which is nice. I think people kind of understand that it's got to be at least worth $10 card to, pay to get $10 review. We get a lot of, right now we've been getting a lot of football. Obviously football season, a lot of football. A lot of the young quarterbacks, this new young quarterback class, people like. So we've been seeing a bunch of Justin Fields and Mac Jones, a bunch of those Don Russ, and I would say we typically see product right as it comes out, which is awesome. But I wouldn't say we're a microcosm of the hobby, so we kind of just see it all, which is awesome.
What do you collect, Jason?
I personally, my PC, I would say is Nolan Arenado. I was a big Rockies fan.
Nice.
Living in the area, yeah, and so I've got a big Nolan Arenado PC. But I'm just in the hobby, so I'm always buying and selling whatever I can get my hands on.
How come the Rockies
buy
never
some
had success?
Buy Helton stuff.
Man,
if he doesn't get in this year, he'll get in soon. Larry Walker opened up the floodgates a little bit. So I think that the cores, hold him down because they play the cores.
Right.
Helton's the guy. He's got to get in. So.
He's got to get in. I agree.
Cage, how come the Rockies never win?
Oh man, we don't have to go there.
Hard to pitch there. It's really hard to pitch,
and the ownership's ridiculous.
It's really hard to pitch there. And then they don't when they open their purse up, they open up the checkbooks. It never seems to be for the right player, and when they have the right player, they don't seem to open up the checkbook. I remember they signed Mike Hampton to like a huge contract. You know what I mean? We're going way back. You know, so and someone like Arenado, you know,
and now they're paying him to play in St. Louis, right? It doesn't make
sense.
They're
paying him and he's playing somewhere else. I mean, it happens, right? I mean, it happens to the best of the team. It doesn't seem to happen to Tampa that often. You know, it doesn't seem to happen to like Houston that often, right?
Right.
But Cage loves Tampa. Cage is going to disown his Yankees for the Rays.
They just do everything right. They just make every right move.
And that Franco kid is electric. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, and even they did a right move with him, signing him. They signed him until he's early 30s. You know,
great team friend.
And mark my words, they are going to trade him with like 3 years left on the contract. It's going to be a huge trade chip because even at the end of his contract, he's going to be in his prime, and someone's going to get 3 years of him at $15 million a year, and the average contract for somebody like that's going to be $60 by that time,
especially 10 years from now. Right?
Yeah, so they'll be able to retool their entire team based on moving him, and they will have already gotten 8 years of his play. So it's they're just smart, man.
Loaded anyway, so
they're just very smart in what they do.
So you're in Dallas.
Yes, sir.
I love Luka, but he looks. I'm curious what your take on.
He thinks he looks fat, by the way, and he says he's out of shape.
I said he's out of shape.
I think he's out of shape too, but he's too damn good for it to matter. He's just one of those guys where he's so good, and I say that, but like obviously, I think he probably is a little out of shape.
Does it worry you that his season high is only 33 points? And that sounds hilarious to say.
I know, right? And that's the thing is like, you know, I want to get worried that his season high is 33, but it's like, man, you know, how many guys in the NBA would kill to go score 33 as their career high, right? Like,
and how he does it, he dude, he gets in the paint and then he just does this easy little floater. And then he yells at the refs. He's a funny guy. Like Luka,
the way that he can control his body is you know, he uses his body in the league like a guy who's been in the league for 10 or 15 years. It's unbelievable.
So Jason Kidd, you happy with the hire?
I love Jason Kidd. He was a Mav for their title run in 2011. So I'm all on board. I'll give him. I think it's a good move. I think it's probably a move to recruit other stars to get, you know, to play around Luka. I think the players run NBA teams these days. I think the whole X's and O's coach is just that's the old NBA. I think these guys want guys that they're friends with, and I think Kidd understands that a little bit more. So I kind of like the move for the Mavs, but I'm hoping it pays off and they can get, you know, another big guy in here pretty soon to play with those two guys.
Cuban, I was listening to All the Smoke with Kevin Garnett.
Yeah,
and it was a cool episode because I didn't realize this till he said it. Like Cuban's one of those owners that really takes care of his culture. Like a lot of people don't realize most of the players that played in the last 10 years are somehow still associated with the organization. Like Michael Finley, who's like a Dallas legend. People don't even know how good Michael Finley was.
He was great.
He's in like the front office with now. So it's interesting the culture they've built there.
It is. And Dirk is obviously another great example of that, how they were able to keep him for his entire career. And then now obviously he works in the front office and is working with those guys as well. It's interesting. Cuban's a great business mind. There's obviously no debating that. Mavericks games are always sold out. I hope they can fund another team to make a serious title push though. At least while Luka's still here.
How do I put? I called Cage this morning and I said, man, if you really respected people in the hobby, did like big story sales this weekend, you know, $20,000 card here selling, you know, freeing up what I thought my take was liquidity for, you know, the holidays, you know, sure. A lot of guys, you know, the hobby's been good to them, especially like the high end cards.
Right.
So, you know, they're taking some money off the table, right? Taking some profits. What are you seeing? You know, are you worried about the hobby? Are you optimistic? What are the conversations going on like behind the scenes? If you could privy us to that.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the hobby. If I'm being honest, I'm just somebody who believes that especially high end cards like some of the ones that are selling for tens and 20,000s. I think those cards are pretty safe for, you know, the future moving forward. I think the blue chip stuff, the Jordan PSA 10s, the Brady rookies, the Contenders Brady's, stuff like that is probably untouchable at this point. For the general public, I think that's why we're going to see a lot of the fractional ownership of those museum pieces, the blue chip stuff, just because of 100% ownership of those big cards is just out of the question for a lot of people. I think the fractional space is really interesting. I think it's going to be a really good thing for the hobby in terms of driving people that maybe don't consider cards as an investment, or kind of are more familiar with traditional investing, maybe the stock market, things like that. I think it's an easier way to jump in for those people who say, I'm not going to go spend $100,000 on a sports card, but I'll spend $1,000 on a share in a fund that has the $100,000 value, and then to hold that over time, I think kind of brings sports cards into the light of that almost art realm of, hey, this is an alternative investment that over time you will see a return on. And I think that the fractional apps, the fractional ownership apps like Collectible and Rally, those ones are some of the ones that I've started to pay attention to. Not necessarily from a day trading perspective of like, hey, I'm going to buy a share today and I'm going to sell it tomorrow, but hey, I'm going to start buying some of these shares, put them away, and just hold on to them. And then over time, as I need money out, stuff like that, sell those off. But I think it is a really good way for people to get into the investing side of the hobby. But as far as the overall market, no, I think I would not say I'm very worried about that.
I know you guys are business guys, right? The guys behind the scenes. Inflation. What any conversation about that? Like that's a big topic on people's mind. You could pass because it's like a macroeconomic question, but it has been in culture and in CNBC and stuff. So
I would say, I think in the last 18 months, just kind of back us up just a little bit. I think we saw cards that were overinflated sell, for ridiculous numbers, crazy numbers. And then I think we saw, in the last 6 months, almost those crazy prices come down and kind of find their, stability point. I don't know if that was, I would say it was probably overinflation at, a year ago. I don't necessarily think the hobby's crashing, like when those cards are realizing kind of normal prices again. I would say there's still like long-term investment opportunities all over the hobby. I think there's a lot of opportunities still out there. And if say we're in the second or third inning of the 9-inning ball game, if you will. But I would say, the inflation of certain cards and things like that, I think a lot of people have gotten hurt on, because as they get into the hobby, as these cards were overinflated, you buy in at the peak, if you would. And then, the card would kind of settle back to their normal price, and people would have to get, people would take a loss on those.
I'll ask this. I don't know if you have a take on this. It'll be my final question, Cage, unless you have anything.
I want to hear.
Well, this
sounds
morning,
like intriguing.
Well, this morning I asked you to pull up the pop count of 2 cards. Do you remember what they were?
Yes, the LaMelo Ball Prizm Silver PSA 10 and the Anthony Edwards Prizm PSA 10 Silver as well.
So there's 250 approximately PSA 10s of Edwards.
Okay.
And there's only 40 LaMelo.
Yep.
Same class, same pack. What's the deal? And I don't think it's this isn't just PSA 10s, but we could talk about PSA. But just way less actually of the LaMelo silvers out there in general versus the Edwards.
So this is something that kind of goes back to we get to see the new product right as it comes out, right? So I would have told you, if we would have had this conversation, let's say even 2 weeks after Prizm came out, I would have told you right away to stay away from the silvers from this year. And that's just because every silver that I've seen, or not everyone, but I'd say 95% of the silvers that we've seen come through, whether it's LaMelo, Anthony Edwards, LeBron, you name it, they have had surface defects, printing, miscuts. We've had a lot of off-centering issues. The silver parallel from 2021 basketball, for whatever reason, is just not a clean parallel. And so that's kind of one of those where, as we see, tons and tons of Prizm come through, and we see that every silver is getting, we're failing every silver as far as a 9 or a better grade goes. It's one of those that, in my head, I'd think, hey, stay away from Prizm silvers. Or the opposite is, if you see a Prizm 10, buy it, because it's going to be low pop. You know what I mean? And that's just because of the way that the set was printed, and unfortunately the factory mistakes that were, missed by Panini or whoever. I would say that the difference in the LaMelo and the Anthony Edwards probably has to do with where they fell in the set when those cards were being cut at Panini. As far as like LaMelo's might be a little bit more off-centered. And so, the ones that can even squeak a 9 or a 10 are, 5 times less available than the Edwards or whatever it may be. But I would say overall, Prizm Silver from 2020-21 has not been very good.
Cage, you called this. You said it's going to be that bell curve, right?
Yep.
After Luka and Zion silver years, which there's like 2,500 silver Lukas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I don't even think you could call silver rare anymore for those years, right? That's a base card, in my opinion.
Right.
And people are going to come from my neck. But then you go and drop off, right? So you have Luka 2,500, Zion 2,500, PSA 10s, and then LaMelo 40.
For now. Remember, even that silver, I mean, listen, you would think if you had a silver 10, you would grade that for $150 because, they're selling for $3,000 plus.
Right.
So where does that pop go, Cage? 100?
No, it'll be more than that when all is said and done. There's still a lot of unopened product of that. There's still a lot of there are people who, believe it or not, still haven't graded that card. Right. They're waiting for regular to open, or, they're waiting to send it in a larger thing. There are people who have them, raw. People who sent them to another grading company that will eventually take it out and put it in PSA. There'll be a couple hundred of those 10s. Although the added wrinkle of what Jason's telling you is that
they're going to be pretty upset.
In addition to them being closed and a higher price and grading, which was the reason I was talking about the bell curve, that it is one of those infamous condition-sensitive sets that we like to read about. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And that one will now be, when looking back, the silvers from that year will be something that people look at because, not only will PSA have been closed, but the ones that are getting graded are not going to grade well because of all the factory issues.
Right.
So it's funny, we did a post, and when we did this post, I was like, obviously the silver. We did, what would you rather have, 10 Edwards base or 1 Edwards silver? And
that's a great question. So kind of going back to touch about how I feel about moving forward in the hobby and like investing in things is I would not buy either of those options, right? I think that cards are just moving towards serial numbers and on-card autographs being the end-all be-all of the rarity, if you will. I think that a base card in a 10 that's a low pop is still a base card, if that makes sense. It's still widely printed. And obviously, I think for these, I think more for these ultra-modern sets that are going to continue to come out and be printed like crazy. I think the argument being that the serial number has a finite population. It will always be, rare by definition, whereas the base, you're kind of manufacturing that scarcity, if you will, by assigning the grade, and it just kind of, it raises the question: is it actually rare or is it just scarce because of the grade? To answer your question, if I had to pick one, I would pick the silver. I would just prefer the silver. I think it's rare. I think the margins would be better over time on 1 silver than 10 base, but that just is my preference. And it's also a lot less work to try to sell 1 silver than 10 base. So I would go about it that way.
I have an idea, and someone's already doing this, but you guys are in Texas, so you could pull this off, no tax, right?
Sure.
So let's say, because here's the thing, man, base has its place.
Totally.
That should be a shirt, Cage.
Base
Remember,
has
that's patented. As of today, that's patented. So no more of
All
you
right.
alone going and taking our Instagram names.
That's right.
Cardboard Relevant was ours, and then you poached it. So base has its place. So you open a pack, you get all these base cards. Maybe 2 years ago, you're pumped, right? You're like, this
Absolutely.
is a nice hit. Now you don't really know what to do with it.
Absolutely.
So let's say they send it to Dallas Card Investors, and you guys review it, and you say, not worth slabbing. We'll grade this. We'll do our pre-grade or
Sure.
You can vault it for them, right? And I went on your guys' website. You guys have an awesome website. You could create a little mini marketplace for all these base cards. People say, just keep it there. I'm not going to slab it, but now you could create this form of exchange where people, because where do you go now to sell your base cards, right? You have Star Stock, good option. Right. eBay, not a good option for base cards because you could return them. Where do you go? What do you do with these base cards? I truly don't know. This is a question for Jason and Cage, and then we'll wrap.
Yeah, I was going to say Star Stock is probably the best option if you're really looking to move a lot of volume for, over time. Obviously, I think that if you're able to get them all your inventory and they can get it all on there for you, that's the best platform in terms of getting eyes on it all. ComC is another one of those. Both of those sites do very well. That is an interesting. I know that Star Stock kind of has their A rating. Kind of will review the condition of the card for you. I think that brings a little bit of a premium based on just a raw card. If I'm correct on that, I'm not ultra familiar, but I know that is something that would be interesting for us is to have that DCI graded, like a label or what that kind of like Star Stock does. That'd be really interesting, is to create a marketplace for reviewed raw cards.
Correct.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I guess for me, I just stack my base cards in stacks at my house and try to find, pull out the ones when they become valuable. But yeah,
hey, let's give them to kids around the holiday. Who cares?
Right. That's honestly, that's the best way to do it.
Cage.
Yeah, man. I mean, that is the question, because it used to be everybody knew what they were doing with their stuff. Everybody knew what they were doing. They were going to go grade it.
You're the bull king. Cage, another one. I'm on fire. This episode is a sham because you haven't dropped a single movie quote since the first quarter, but you're the bulk god. You're the bulk king.
The bulk god? Are you making fun of me? Are you calling me fat?
No. This was not a weight joke. This was a market opportunity joke. You used to tuck them into
fat. I'm just big boned.
So I do have to quickly plug our TikTok, and Connor, our social media guy, does a great job for our TikTok.
You can plug it if you do one of the dances. I need a Charlie D'Amelio dance out of you right now. Back up.
You can't do it.
Why do you know culture so much, dude?
Go. Do a little. Yeah, he's got it.
I'll do it for you. Absolutely.
He's got the dance. He's rocking and rolling.
I want to say they do a great job. And if you're interested in watching a million card bulk lot, we actually sold a million singles.
Wow.
About 2 weeks ago to a local guy who came to our office and loaded up his truck and took them all away. So that was about 5 years of collecting and just ripping wax in cases and putting them in our warehouse to, hopefully, grow in value over time. And we'd go back through and pick them out every so often. But it got to the point where we found a buyer and he came and picked them up. And so we made a big TikTok and threw it on there. And if you want to go see a million singles getting picked up in one lot, it's on there. So
a million.
Yeah, a million cards. It was crazy.
A million of anything is interesting.
That's exactly
having a million of anything in one spot is
definitely
interesting.
It is. It was overwhelming.
Well, because those monster boxes, they hold 5,000 cards, right? And that's because this is the big one. Like 1,000, 5 row, these big boxes, and they weigh a lot of. They're heavy as hell, right? Yeah. So you're getting 2 of those is 10,000, 20 of them 100,000, 200 of those boxes to get to a million cards. That is. I mean, what do you send the guy away with a container? Did he come up with an 18-wheeler and just like pull up?
He had it was crazy. He had just a monster pickup truck, but we literally loaded like the back all the way full, floor to ceiling, and then all the cab. Yeah, exactly. So it was crazy though. So
Ford Cup. This is what Ford's meant to. It's meant to haul.
That's the way to move your bulk if you can find a local buyer who can come and pick it up for you.
A pickup truck with 1 million cards rolling down the
Right.
highway. I could just see it
That's
now, right? And stopping off, and so some drive-through. Like
That's right.
Texas Roadhouse.
it's a little barbecue. Nice.
I almost canceled this interview. I didn't tell you this, Jason.
Oh man.
This episode. So
It's because Jason,
great.
he saw you this morning, and he's like, "I can't do it." Cage, I always have to be the most handsome person on there. And I saw Jason's page, and I can't do it. Like, that's what he told me.
He said he's excited.
Now I know you guys are busting my balls.
He's excited to be on the Luka Tiger LeBron podcast. We're friends from afar. But then I saw your little avatar was an NFT.
That's right.
This guy's a disgrace to the hobby.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's terrible. NFT's the worst.
Well, how did you? If you guys can't pick up the sarcasm, I hope you.
Because I'm laying it on real thick.
Yeah. How did you get into NFTs? What's your take on NFTs? As a whole.
Honestly, I am not the foremost expert on cryptocurrency or NFTs, things like that. I enjoy them. The reason that my profile picture is a sloth on Twitter is because, from my understanding, the sloth NFT project was the hobby's own project, and so it was something that people who were on card Twitter and the like were buying up, and so I snagged one and just kind of join the crew on that. It was not a speculative investment. I think I've lost all the value out of it already, but that is my sloth avatar. So I'm all about that. I'm all about the sloth. But as far as NFTs go, I'm not a big risk taker on NFTs. I'm more about the cards.
So guys, giveaway. Follow D Card Investors on Twitter. Follow us. You should be Luka Tiger Braun on Twitter right here on the screen on YouTube. Cage had a great idea, and if you would accept, you're kind of the inaugural guest.
Sure.
So we started a Luka Tiger NFT that's a little different than like the sloth NFTs because we're actually public facing personas. We show up every day and we run this podcast and network, and we want to do something cool where we give the people that come on our show as guests a tiger. So if you would accept, I would love to airdrop you a Luka Tiger NFT.
Oh man, absolutely. I'd love one. That's awesome. Thank you.
It's not speculatory, but as long as Paige and I are alive, it's not going to go to zero either.
That's right. It will never be worth zero. Not as long as we are alive. Not as long as there's breath in my lungs.
Tiger, the upside of the tiger relies on one thing, and that's Cage not ordering Uber Eats 7 days out of the week.
It's New York, though.
Sometimes twice a day.
Yeah. Well,
sometimes twice a day. And sometimes from places that are like 3 blocks away from me that I could walk to and pick the food up, but I don't care.
All the NFT, the backers, all the community is going to be like, hey, our community fund, it's just all Uber Eats receipts. Like, what's going on here? Yeah.
No, what he's trying to say is, I got to stay alive long enough to maximize everyone's investment.
That's exactly right.
So
that's exactly right.
But listen, I would rather live to 75 and eat as much Chick-fil-A as I can than 82 and not be able to have Chick-fil-A.
I'm
sorry.
Horrible.
I'm the worst. I like barbecue.
I'm right there.
Have some barbecue.
Well, you come down to Dallas and take care of you sometime.
That's it. Set it up. A little brisket done the right way, not like Jewish brisket, Andrew. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like the but the cardboard they serve at that. I'm talking about like real like barbecue brisket. Little cornbread on the side.
That's right.
No. I had great brisket here in Tulum, so I'm with you. And it's even more delicious when you cut it up the next morning and put sunny side up eggs.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, but when you put the salsa on it, it just threw it right out the window. You're not supposed to do that. I know it's Tulum barbecue, but no salsa. Pico de gallo. Little pico de gallo. Yeah, a little mole.
Jason, are you always from Texas?
I am, yes. I'm originally from Dallas.
By way of Colorado.
Yep, by way of Colorado, and then back in Dallas now. So.
Nice. I'm going to Vail in 10 days. With a little family trip.
Yep. Awesome. So, just when I think he couldn't do anything more dumb. He goes and does something like that and totally redeems himself.
Are you going to go skiing?
Snowboarding.
Snowboarding, yep.
Snowboard.
Dude, I taught myself snowboarding, so you like act like that tough, but the first 2 days are misery.
They're miserable. Yeah, they are.
Have you ever hurt your tailbone and your bum so much? You know LeBron's injury, the glute injury.
I mean,
that's your first 2 days.
I did spend 3 years in prison. I know about tailbone injuries.
All right, let's rock. Let's cap it. Awesome episode, guys. We love you.
Take care, everybody.